It doesn't come crashing in like a wave, it arrives like dawn. Quiet, certain, unstoppable. There are moments in life when you meet someone and you feel something unspoken, not butterflies, but alignment. Not adrenaline, but peace. When something is truly meant by God, it doesn't need to be forced into place. You won't have to push, beg, manipulate, or constantly prove your worth to hold on to it. There's a calmness to it, a flow. The connection unfolds gently, not perfectly, but with an ease that lets your soul breathe. You're not exhausted trying to earn someone's affection or decipher mixed signals. Instead, you experience what it feels like to be seen and accepted as you are. Divine alignment often feels like two puzzle pieces clicking together, not because they're identical, but because they complement each other without struggle. You're not performing to be loved, you're simply being, and that's enough. The conversations come with depth, not tension. The silences aren't awkward, they're peaceful. You don't feel like you're walking on eggshells, afraid that one wrong word will ruin everything. There's safety in the rhythm between you. That doesn't mean the relationship is effortless. Growth still requires work. Misunderstandings still happen. But even in those moments, there's a sense that both hearts are working together, not pulling against each other. You're not constantly asking yourself, why does this feel so hard? Instead, even when there's conflict, you both feel pulled toward resolution rather than retreat. You feel aligned not just emotionally, but spiritually. And that kind of unity can't be manufactured, it's a gift. You'll also notice that divine alignment doesn't ask you to lose your identity to make someone else feel comfortable. You don't have to dim your light or dilute your truth. The right connection doesn't shrink you, it allows you to expand. You can grow in your purpose, in your calling, in your relationship with God, without fear that your growth will push them away. There's room for both of you to become more. What surprises many people is how familiar divine alignment feels even early on. There's this sense of, I know you, not necessarily in a romanticized love at first sight way, but in a deep spiritual recognition. It feels less like starting something brand new and more like continuing something sacred. You feel at home, not because the other person is perfect, but because the connection is grounded in something higher than both of you. And timing plays a role too. Divine alignment doesn't just bring the right person, it brings them at the right time. When you're ready to give, not just to receive. When you're ready to choose someone, not just crave them. When your heart is open to God's pace, not your own pressure. You'll know it's from God, not because everything goes smoothly, but because deep down, you're not striving to hold it together. You're simply showing up, and so are they. There's no forcing, no convincing, no running after what doesn't want to stay. It just flows, because when God writes it, peace follows, every time. When a relationship is aligned by God, growth isn't just something that happens, it becomes inevitable. You both evolve, not because you're trying to fix each other, but because being with each other invites you to become more intentional, more honest, more spiritually aware. You start to see how love can be a catalyst for transformation, not a distraction from it. There's something about the connection that pulls the best out of you, even when it's uncomfortable. It's not always romantic or poetic. Sometimes growth looks like difficult conversations that force you to examine your habits, your insecurities, your mindset. But in the presence of the right person, those conversations don't tear you down, they build you up. You don't feel judged, you feel challenged. Not challenged to meet someone else's expectations, but to step more fully into who God is calling you to be. That kind of growth is rooted in love, not performance. You begin to notice the way you both respond to pressure, to fear, to failure. And instead of retreating into silence or pride, you lean in. You pray more. You reflect more. You become more aware of how your behavior affects someone else. You start holding yourself accountable, not because you're being forced to, but because you care deeply about how your presence shapes the space you're building together. And it's not one-sided. You're not carrying the emotional or spiritual weight alone. The other person is on the journey too. They're not just looking to receive, they're pouring in too. They're seeking God, asking questions, confronting their own wounds. You see them changing not for you, but because they feel safe enough to grow in your presence. And you feel the same. That mutual energy creates a sacred ground where both of you can flourish. This kind of growth doesn't always come in grand moments. Sometimes it's subtle. It's in the way one of you starts setting healthier boundaries. It's in the way you both begin to communicate more clearly with less fear and more compassion. It's in the way you become more patient, more self-aware, more forgiving. The change happens in layers over time, but it's unmistakable. There's a kind of accountability that comes with divine connection. You both want to show up as your best, not out of obligation, but because you realize that who you are directly impacts the relationship God is forming. You're not growing in isolation anymore. You're growing with someone who sees you, prays for you, encourages you, and sometimes gently corrects you. And that kind of dynamic, it's rare. What's beautiful is that this growth extends beyond the relationship. You both become better friends, better siblings, better leaders, better disciples. You start seeing the world differently, loving differently, dreaming bigger. Because when two people are aligned in purpose, grounded in faith, and committed to each other's becoming, stagnation has no place. You either rise together or you weren't meant to be together at all. In a world obsessed with picture-perfect love stories, it's easy to believe that the right relationship should look flawless. The perfect dates, the perfect photos, the perfect compatibility. But when God is the one bringing two people together, it's not perfection that marks the relationship, it's peace. A peace that surpasses logic. A peace that remains even when things aren't tidy or smooth. This peace doesn't mean the absence of conflict. It means the presence of stability. Even when misunderstandings arise or opinions clash, there's a deeper knowing that you're both rooted in something stronger than emotion. You're not quick to run, accuse, or give up. Instead, you pause. You pray. You pursue understanding over ego, because something in your spirit keeps reminding you this is worth it. You realize that peace is not passive, it's active. It shows up in the way you both choose to respond with grace rather than react with anger. It's in the quiet confidence you feel when you're with them, even if things around you are uncertain. You don't feel the need to perform or impress. You can breathe. You can exhale. You're not walking on eggshells or second-guessing your worth. You're anchored in the calm assurance that you're safe, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. There's no pretending in a relationship built on peace. You bring your whole self, the parts that are healed and the parts still healing, and they do the same. And even when your broken edges show, you're met with compassion, not criticism. You're reminded that love isn't about having it all together. It's about choosing each other again and again with gentleness and humility. This kind of peace becomes your compass. It helps you discern when something is truly from God. Because while passion may come and go and external circumstances may shift, peace remains. It doesn't demand perfection from you or your partner. It doesn't panic when things go off script. Instead, it invites both of you to rest in God's timing, His wisdom, and His covering over your relationship. There will be days when your weaknesses surface, when communication misfires, or when life throws unexpected challenges your way. But peace doesn't mean those things won't happen. It means they won't shake the foundation. You know how to return to each other, not just in emotion, but in purpose. You know how to sit in silence without fear, how to apologize without pride, and how to support each other without keeping score. And what you'll notice over time is that peace creates space. Space for growth, for honesty, for presence. You're not consumed by what the relationship looks like to others. You're more invested in how it feels when it's just the two of you, unfiltered, uncurated, unafraid. It's not a fairy tale. It's real. Sometimes messy, sometimes quiet, but always grounded in the kind of peace that only God can give. When God is in something, He rarely reveals it all at once. His confirmation comes gently, steadily, and often in layers. Not because He's trying to confuse you, but because He wants to build trust, not just in the relationship, but in Him. It starts subtly, a quiet peace in your spirit, a sense that this person feels safe, familiar, like home. You can't explain it logically, but your heart doesn't feel anxious. That's often the first layer of divine stillness that tells you you're not off track. As time goes on, the next layers begin to unfold. Maybe it's in the conversations that go deeper than usual, the way you open up without fear, or how they ask questions that reach your soul, not just your surface. You begin to see that your values align, not just your goals, but your beliefs, your pace, your priorities. And even when you don't agree, you don't feel divided. You're both willing to learn from each other. That kind of openness isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. Then there's the timing. You start noticing that the relationship arrived not when you were desperate, but when you were becoming whole. Not when you were searching for someone to complete you, but when you were discovering who you are in God. and you realize they were on a similar journey. The timing wasn't perfect in your eyes, but it was perfect in His. That's another layer. Confirmation also shows up through people around you, the ones who know you deeply and love you honestly. They notice the change. They see you smiling more, healing more, walking in purpose. They affirm what you already sense. This connection is different, healthier, grounded. When trusted voices begin to echo what your spirit already knows, it's not just encouragement, it's divine affirmation. Sometimes confirmation looks like unexpected alignment, the way your dreams fit together, the way one person's strength covers the other's weakness, the way you push each other toward God, not just toward each other. You start realizing this relationship isn't just about romance, it's about mission. It carries purpose. That awareness doesn't come all at once. It unfolds like a story being written in chapters, each one confirming what your heart hoped was true. But perhaps the most powerful layer of confirmation is found in the resistance. Because even when challenges come, and they will, there's something that holds you together. You're not constantly questioning the relationship at its core. Even in tension, there's clarity. Even in silence, there's assurance. The bond doesn't break, it deepens. That kind of resilience isn't built by chance. It's built by God. You begin to see that confirmation isn't about perfection. It's not about every sign lining up or every fear vanishing. It's about consistency. It's about the way the relationship keeps pointing you back to God, back to growth, back to peace. And over time, layer by layer, you stop wondering if it's real. You just know. When God brings two people together, it becomes clear that their union isn't just for companionship, it's for calling. You start to see that your lives were never meant to run parallel, but to intertwine for something bigger than either of you could do alone. There's a divine clarity that begins to settle over your vision. And suddenly, the dreams you once held in isolation begin to make more sense in partnership. Being with the right person doesn't distract you from your purpose, it sharpens it. You find yourself thinking more boldly, praying more intentionally, and planning with deeper conviction. Not because you're trying to impress each other, but because something in the connection stirs the courage to step into what you were created for. You're not just building a relationship, you're building a legacy, and you both know it. There's a shift in your conversations. You stop only talking about what makes you feel good in the moment and start talking about what makes you feel aligned with eternity. You dream together, plan together, and wrestle with ideas that once felt too heavy to carry alone. But now they feel possible. The load feels lighter. The vision feels clearer. Because two are truly better than one when the foundation is God. It's not that you didn't have purpose before. You did. But something about being with them makes it come alive in a new way. They see the parts of your calling you sometimes doubt. They speak into the gaps where fear used to hide. They don't just cheer for your dreams, they invest in them. And you do the same for them. There's a sense of shared responsibility, a knowing that you've been placed in each other's lives, not just to enjoy each other, but to build something sacred. You begin to notice the ways your gifts complement each other. Where one sees the vision, the other sees the strategy. Where one brings creativity, the other brings structure. Where one has boldness, the other brings discernment. It's not a competition, it's a collaboration. You're not trying to outshine each other, you're learning how to shine brighter together. And when challenges come, and they will, you don't see them as reasons to walk away. You see them as tests of your unity, opportunities to strengthen what you're building. Even in those moments, your purpose acts as a compass. It keeps you focused. It reminds you that what you have is not just about emotion, it's about impact. Eventually, you begin to see fruit. Maybe it's in the people you're encouraging, the things you're creating, or the peace that surrounds your relationship. But one thing becomes undeniable. Your life together is more purposeful than it ever was apart. It doesn't mean your identity is lost. It means your identity is enhanced. You are still fully you. They are still fully them, but together, you are something greater. Something called, something designed, something divine. When God ordains a relationship, it will not be exempt from resistance, but it will be resilient through it. Resistance will come in many forms: misunderstandings, outside opinions, unforeseen challenges, emotional baggage, fear, timing, and even spiritual warfare. But what becomes clear over time is that while the resistance may test the relationship, it won't be able to break the bond. In fact, it only reveals the strength of it. This doesn't mean everything feels easy. In fact, the moments of tension might expose areas in each of you that still need healing or maturity. But instead of pulling away, you both lean in. You don't fight against each other, you fight for each other. The resistance becomes a refining fire, not a destructive one. It reveals what's real and, more importantly, what's worth holding on to. You may go through seasons where the circumstances don't make sense. Life pulls you in different directions. Plans don't align. Emotions run high, and still something in your spirit says, don't walk away from this. Not out of attachment or fear of being alone, but out of divine conviction that what you're building is bigger than the momentary struggle. There's an unseen strength that rises up in a God-ordained bond. When things go wrong, you don't immediately assume the relationship is broken. You assume there's something deeper that needs to be addressed. You're willing to do the work. You're willing to have the hard conversations. You're willing to forgive, to apologize, to listen, to grow. You're not afraid of confrontation because you both know that the goal isn't to win, it's to restore. External resistance also has a way of drawing you closer. When people misunderstand your connection, when timelines don't unfold the way you hoped, when doubts creep in you, don't run to isolation. You run to God together. You pray more. You seek counsel. You take breaks if needed, but you don't quit on each other. You stay anchored in the truth that God doesn't call people to easy love stories, He calls them to enduring ones. In time, you begin to see that the resistance was never meant to destroy what was from God. It was meant to reveal it. Because anything that can be broken by pressure wasn't built to last. And what's built on God's foundation might bend, but it won't break. It might be shaken, but it won't fall. The beauty of a bond that survives resistance is that it becomes deeper, richer, and more refined. Trust becomes stronger. Communication becomes more honest. Love becomes more selfless. You begin to carry each other's burdens with greater care, knowing that love isn't proven in comfort, it's proven in commitment. The storm doesn't scare you anymore. It humbles you. It strengthens you. And it confirms that this bond wasn't built by you. It was sustained by grace. You look back on the resistance not with bitterness, but with gratitude. Because through it, you found out what kind of love you have. Not a perfect love, but a persevering one. When God wants you with someone, He doesn't just give you a moment, He gives you markers. Peace that overrides the need for perfection. A connection that grows effortlessly yet intentionally. A purpose that becomes more vivid together than it ever was alone. He sends confirmation, not all at once, but in layers that teach you to trust Him more deeply. And even when resistance rises, it doesn't tear the relationship apart, it sharpens it, purifies it, improves its strength. God doesn't write stories that are free from struggle. He writes stories that are rooted in Him, the kind that carry weight, vision, and legacy. If you're paying attention, you'll see the signs. Not always loud, not always dramatic, but consistent, faithful, and unmistakably divine. When it's from God, the fruit will show. Not just in how you feel, but in how you grow, how you love, and how you both reflect Him together. So don't chase perfect. Don't chase what looks good. Wait for what brings peace, purpose, and partnership. Because when God wants you with someone, everything about it won't just make sense, it will make you better.